Hello and welcome to my presentation about my game. The game is called Elite Force, as you can see from the slide. The image that is on the slide is actually a poster that I've made to advertise the game. Right, I'm going to tell you some more about the basic information. So on this slide you can see is the basic information about the game. This is a futuristic sci-fi game that I am aiming to target the game at either males or females who are into sci-fi, space, spaceships and Star Trek. This is a third-person perspective view with the ability to change to first person if the player prefers that view, and when in combats they can choose to have it over the shoulder if they're in third person view or stay in first person. It is a shooter type game. By this I mean the player has to defeat waves of the enemy NPC before finally getting to a mini boss or a boss. The player can defeat the waves by using melee weapons or guns, which I will go later into detail in the presentation. At the moment the game has only 3 chapters, mainly because I didn't have enough time to write any more of the storyline. Each chapter will lead up to a mini boss or boss by the player exploring the levels and completing the quest line that leads to that mini boss or boss for that chapter. Additional content will be released via patches or downloadable content that is paid for. The game will have a low upfront cost to purchase the 3 chapters, but will cost more for additional content when released. I plan on making the game for the PC with an option of having 4K graphics, and then later on I'll bring it out for the Xbox and PlayStation, and also taking advantage of the PlayStation's 4K graphics which they just released. The game will have a single player mode and a multiplayer mode, which I will go on and talk about a little bit more in the game mechanics later on in the presentation. So on this one I'm talking about the story, how the player's character got to be on the spaceship and the whole backstory. It was set in 2210. It's an Earth International spaceship called ISS Harlem, and it has encountered a new species of cyborg on extraterrestrial planet called Kepler-438b in the Lyra constellation, which is 470 light years away from Earth. There was a mission led by Medical First Lieutenant Carswell. The team had 2 science engineers and a security lieutenant on the mission. The mission was to contact the new species of cyborg, but the mission ended badly, with the reports coming back of the mission team being attacked by the cyborg drones, and the ship lost contact with the team, and all the mission teams have been reported lost in action. After the attack, the captain of the ISS Harlem sent down an elite force team to look into what happened and look for survivors. Once the elite force team had landed on the planet, they found no survivors or bodies, and the team had gone missing. The elite force team had found weapons and 2 types of dead cyborg drones, which they teleported back to the spaceship. And they also found tracks on the floor, and they followed them down, finding a cave at the end of the tracks. The cyborg drones attacked the elite force team once they started looking into the cave. Only three of the members of this team made it out alive by requesting emergency teleportation. The security lieutenant who was leading the elite force team and the ensign have been reported missing in action. Back on the ISS Harlem, the remaining members of the elite force team had a debriefing with Captain White and Commander Zara Coles. After watching camera footage of the attack, the team realised the members of the elite force team were not killed but immobilised and taken into the cave system. Captain White sends an order back to Earth asking for support and all new recruits to join the mission to rescue him, and as well as calling all inactive personnel. Meanwhile, the cyborgs were found dead at the site, had been taken to the labs and experimented on and studied to find out how the Elite Force team could encounter their new opponents. A holodeck training exercise was set up for the new personnel coming to the rescue mission. New weapons and biosuits were made to counter the cyborgs. The two cyborgs they have encountered are only the tip of the iceberg waiting ahead for them. To follow on this, how the player ties into it, he is one of the new recruits that was asked by Captain White in the emergency request. The player takes control of Reed Paxton. He is a fresh recruit out of the Star Academy, where they train all the new recruits. He was waiting to be assigned to a spaceship. He graduated top of his class in the combat arms with a first in advanced fighting techniques and was assigned to the security department. So that gives you a little insight of the character backstory as well as the story and how the story will unfold from there. So it's going to be a rescue mission, and the player has to rescue the missing crewmen, but they will find out that they're all turned into cyborgs later on in the game. So on this slide I'm going to talk about the game mechanics. I've only listed two of the game mechanics on this, and because they are two big mechanics that are going to be involved with the game, and it should hopefully be a bit different to other sci-fi games. So to start off with, the main storyline is quite linear in my game, and I wanted to try making it as dynamic as I could. So the only way I could think of was placing secondary quests in the game. So by doing this, if the player decides to complete the secondary quest, that NCP that the player was doing the quest for will somehow change the default the friendly NCP in the storyline. So for example, if the player starts a secondary quest line that leads to a relationship with a friendly NPC, that NPC will save the player's character in a cutscene later on in the story. And there's quite a few secondary characters that will change the story along, so it kind of makes it dynamic. If they don't want to have the linear story, which is they can choose what characters they want to influence the storyline, or if they like a secondary character that's not much into it but they want to take that character and replace it with a main one, that will be possible by completing secondary quests. And the other big mechanic is the multiplayer. What I'm planning on is using a type called the holo projected levels. It's a bit like the holodeck if you've ever watched Star Trek. This will give me unique map designs and game modes, stuff that keeps away from every multiplayer map having the same theme and then the same game modes and stuff. So for example, I could have a black and white level or map that is grainy and it's set in like the 1940s style sci-fi with the old guns like a ray gun. I could also have new game modes and stuff as well, or I could have a cell shading level. I could have anything that I wanted by having as a holo projected, and it makes the multiplayer a unique experience because not everything is different. This just touches upon the game mechanics. There's quite a few. There's going to be a lot of quick time events and stuff in the game, but they're going to be mainly involved with the mini bosses and the boss fights, which I'm going to talk about next, which brings me on to this slide. On this slide we'll look at one of the boss mechanics that I will have in one of my chapters. It's a mini boss and is one of the It is actually one of the crewmen that went missing. Every boss in my game will be different from the previous fight they have encountered, and you'll have to defeat them in a particular way. Every boss fight will have at least 2 phases to it. So for this mini boss, it's what we're going to talk about. It's called the Destroyer. There's 3 phases to this boss fight. The main body is a human, so it's organic, and the rest of it's mechanical. And each phase it will change the base, and the player will have to figure out how to defeat the new base. So the first one is a tank base, and the Destroyer will have a power supply on the back of it, and the player will have to try getting around to the back of it and defeating it while avoiding plasma rounds. The second base is called the Spider base. It has 8 legs, and the player will have to shoot at the joints in the leg to immobilize it, which will finally bring him onto the use of robotic legs, so it can walk again. And this is where I will use quick time events along with melee attack weapons, which should combine 2 unique experiences. So the player will, when it gets close enough, it will have to do a set quick time event to pull off a high blow attack while also damaging it slightly with normal attacks. So that just touches up on one of the boss mechanics. There is quite a few mechanics that I planned, and each one will be different. And then I'm going to, on the next slide, which is this slide, I'm going to talk about the different types of NPC enemies that you'll meet in my game. At the moment there's only 3. They all vary in different difficulties. As you can see, I've listed the 3. So you have a drone cyborg, a wasp cyborg, and a biped cyborg. The drone one, it's the weakest one out of the 3 minions. It's quite docile. It won't attack unless other minions are being attacked. It's kind of a bit of a worker robot, so you'll just see it just doing like little jobs and stuff. The wasp cyborg, it's probably, I gave it a role of like a bodyguard. It kind of flies back into over the drones, protecting them and stuff. When it sees an enemy, it will start shooting plasma rounds from its stinger, but it's really weak against range weapons. The biped is the hardest one because it has a shield, and which will make it harder, and the weapons that I've placed in the game up to now aren't very effective against it, so the player will have to defeat it by using willed mechanics, so trying to blow up barrels around it or something like that to actually destroy the biped. But the biped is a human or an alien that has been converted into a cyborg or simulated into the cyborg race. To go more depth into the cyborgs, it's a hive, pretty much how you would see like ants or bees is the way to describe it. There's a queen, which is going to be the main boss. Then obviously it's going to be the worker ants, which is like the cyborg drones, and the wasps, which are like the army ants. And then obviously there's other ones. You got the worker ones. There's all different types. That's just a very quick overlook at what the cyborg race is. The weapons, which is on this slide, there's going to be 2 different types of melee weapons and 1 ranged weapon, and there's going to be a throwable projectile, which is going to be probably a plasma grenade. Each weapon will have 2 forms of attack: a primary, which is a fast attack but low damage, a secondary one, which is a slow attack but high damage and probably will have a slower cooldown rate, so it will take longer before the player can use that again. So the first one's a shock baton and a force field shield, and there's some concept images to give a rough idea what they look like. So the primary attack is electric shock from the baton. It causes about 10 to 20 damage with a rate of 0.2 per second. I've actually just noticed I've put the shield bash wrong on here. In my notes it's the shield bash, it does between 20 and 70 damage at a rate of 1 second cooldown. So the player will have to wait before they can do a shield bash again. Then the next one is a laser sword. The primary attack is a fast one, causing 20 to 50 damage. It is a two-handed weapon, so it does cause a little bit more damage than using the shot pattern. And it has a fire rate of 0.5 seconds, so it's quite quick. The secondary attack is a very slow attack, but it causes more damage, between 40 and 75, which is a rate have a rate of fire of 5 seconds, so the player will have to wait 5 seconds before they can cast it again. So the next one's a plasma gun, which has a primary attack of plasma rounds, which does 10 to 20 damage, firing at the rate of 200 rounds per minute, so it's quite a rapid fire. And then the secondary attack is plasma blast, so it's a big blast radius, and it will damage everyone in that radius of 30 to 50 damage, and it will use 20 rounds every 20 seconds. So it will have a 20-second cooldown, but it will use 20 rounds just to do that blast. So on the next one, we're going to have a quick look at one of the cutscenes. So this is a cutscene in the briefing room. So in this cutscene, the player will meet the captain, which is Captain White, and the first lieutenant, which is First Lieutenant Yi, and will be introduced to the backstory and the mission and first sight of the cyborgs. So the player walks into the briefing room and takes a seat on a chair, and then it goes straight into the cutscene. The player is then introduced to Captain White and Lieutenant Yi, which I don't think they would have met him up to this point. The captain starts to talk about the backstory, how they lost contact with the research team, and the Elite Force team came under fire. Then it introduces the player to going to a rescue mission and rescuing the missing crewman. Then it talks about going into what they're up against, so it starts touching up on the cyborgs, and we don't know much about them at the moment. They know it's half organic, half robotic, and then there's going to be a table that they're sitting around, and there'll be a hollow projection of the cyborgs on the table, and the camera will zoom in onto the hollow projection of the cyborgs, and then they will talk about what it is. So the first one that will come up is obviously the drone, and they'll talk about the drone, and then they'll talk about what it is, what it's weak against, and they know it didn't attack the crew. It only engaged in combat when the Wasp engaged combat, which then displays as the hologram. They talk about the Wasp. They realise it's identical to the Wasp found on Oris, but they know it's been modified, and it has yellow armour and shoots plasma rounds from its stinger. And then the screen zooms out again and goes back to around the table, and then they talk about they're going to show them the footage what the Elite Force team captured, and it's confidential and they can't talk about it, what they've seen, because it's only the high officers that know about the footage. So it goes on onto the footage, so the screen blacks out and then goes to this fuzzy grainy video of the footage. So it will be in a dark cave. They'll see the lieutenant on the ground. Looks like he's been knocked out, and then they'll see a shadowy image, and but the player hasn't been introduced to this yet, but it will be the cyborg biped. And then they see the lieutenant getting dragged away, and all you can hear is the Elite Force team shout fire, and obviously all the bullets trying to shoot this invisible shadow at the back of the K system. Then they get emergency teleportation, and then it zooms back out to the briefing room again, which gives them additional quests if they want to learn more about the cyborgs. They can go and review the data on the science deck, and then it gives a primary quest of going to the holodeck for weapon training, which will lead on to the training of how to fire the weapons, the camera systems and all that. So that's a quick overview of one of the cutscenes. Next is the map concepts. So in this slide is some of the levels I've quickly drawn as a template. In the first chapter I will have over 9 levels where the player can explore the ship, such as the bridge, player quarters, mess hall, engineering, shuttle bay, medical bay, and the holodeck, where obviously the player will be doing the training as I just mentioned. The quest will make the player go all over the ship and complete primary and secondary quests. The levels will also involve lots of interactions with the ship itself and friendly NPCs. In chapter 2, there is far less levels, but they are a lot larger in comparison. There will be 4 playable levels. It will be mainly on the planet Kelper-43b, and we'll take advantage of the landscape tool and the foliage tool inside of Unreal Engine. The third chapter, which I haven't displayed any of the levels on this slide, is the same as chapter 2. Will be large levels, and this chapter will be inside a dark cave with lighting only coming from the glowworms, which will be emissive light that will make a material fall. That's the end of the presentation. Thanks for watching my presentation about the game I'm deciding to make, and if you could leave any feedback on how to improve my game or what you think about the game would be much appreciated. Thanks for watching.